Hi and welcome. Today I want to go over with you area and perimeter. So this lesson is a continuation of our geometry that we've been doing lately, okay? So in this lesson, I just want to go over the basics. You might remember how to do area and perimeter, but we're going to look at some questions that first just ask area and perimeter like easily, and then ones that could be maybe a little more challenging that you'll find on the ASVAB. So just as a general review, let's go ahead and begin with perimeters of squares and rectangles. So one characteristic that I like to remind people is that squares have equal sides, okay? So that means if this is 1, this is also 1, this is also 1, this is also 1. In the same way, if this is 4, this is also 4, this is also 4, this is also 4. Okay? So a lot of times when they give us the measure of a side of a square, all we have to do is multiply it by 4 to get the perimeter. And then when we have a rectangle, rectangles have two sides that are the same. Those are called the length. And another two sides that are the same, those are called the width. Okay? And just to kind of put this in terms of, so let's call this side. Side, side, and side. So the perimeter of a rectangle or a square is basically talking about the measure along the edge of it. So if we were to take a string and we were to measure this plus this plus this plus this, that would give us the perimeter. So based on that idea, if we were to take the perimeter of a square, it would be side plus side plus side plus sides. This would be the perimeter. S plus S plus S plus S is just 4S equals the perimeter. That's for a square. For a rectangle, it would be the length plus the width plus the other length plus the other width. And that would give us perimeter. Well, here we can combine like terms. Length plus length, so 2 times the length, plus the width plus the width. That gives us 2 times the width. And that gives us perimeter. So this is just kind of to explain to you where these equations come from. What I want you to memorize or remember, 4 times S for side is perimeter for a square, and for a rectangle, 2L plus 2W equals perimeter. Okay? So I'm not sure if I've mentioned it to you before, but in this geometry section, it's already a good idea to take out maybe like a note card or have a page where you write down important equations, because most of geometry is equations. So you want to have somewhere where you're writing them down to help you keep referring to them until you fully memorize them, okay? Alright, so let's look at some questions with perimeter. So first question says, a square has a side that is equal to 3.5 inches. What is the perimeter of the square? Well, we know that perimeter for a square is 4 times the side. Here the side is 3.5. So you do perimeter equals 4 times 3.5. Now, how do we multiply this if we have a mixed number? We can turn it back into an improper fraction by multiplying and adding. So 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. So this becomes 7 over 2. So I'm going to rewrite this as 4 times 7 over 2. I'm going to do 4 over 1 so it's easy to see what multiplies to what. This gives me 28 because I multiply the top times the bottom over 2. And 28 divided by 2 is just 14. So the perimeter of the square is 14 inches. Okay? All right, let's look at another one. A square has a side that is equal to 8 inches. What is the perimeter of the square? Well, our formula for perimeter, 4 times side. In this case, it's 4 times 8 inches. And that gives us 32 inches. Okay, so far so good. Pretty easy, right? Let's look at the next example. Number 3. a square has a side that is equal to x plus 2. If the perimeter is 8, what is the value of x? All right, so let's write down our equation again. Perimeter equals 4 times s. And let's fill it in with the information. S, or the side, is x plus 2. And perimeter is 8. So I'm going to rewrite this. Where I see the p, I put 8 equals 4 times the side, x plus 2. Okay? Now that I've done that, I want to solve for x because the question is asking me for the value of x. So I'm going to multiply, distribute. 4 times x, 4x. 4 times 2 plus 8. 8 equals 4x plus 8. I'm going to minus 8 on both sides. This gives me 0 equals 4x. With 0 equals 4x, I can divide by 4. And I get 0 divided by 4 is just 0. X equals 0. Now, is this possible? Yes, it is possible. X can equal 0. X can also equal a negative number. That doesn't matter. What matters is that the length of the side is not 0 and the length of the side is not a negative number. Okay? All right, let's keep going. So now we have some examples with rectangles. So it says a rectangle has a length of 6.5 inches, so length, and a width of 4.9 inches. Width. What is the perimeter of the rectangle? Well, I know that perimeter for a rectangle is P equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So I'm just going to plug everything in. 2 times 6.5 because, not 6 plus 5. Sorry. 6.5 because that's the length plus 2 times 4.9 because that's the width. So let me do 6.5 times 2. 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 6 is 12 plus 1 is 13. There's one number behind the decimal point in my question, so there'll be 1 in my answer. So I can replace this with 13. Plus, now let's do 4.9 times 2. 2 times 9 is 18, carry the 1. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. There's one number behind the decimal point, so there'll be 1 in my answer. So 13 plus 9.8. Well, let me kind of line this up like this. I have to fill in, 9.8. There we go. 0 plus 8 is 8. Bring down the decimal. 3 plus 9 is 12. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So what is the perimeter of this rectangle? 22.8 inches. Okay? So far, so good. All right, awesome. So let's look at the next one. I'm going to erase here and make a little bit of space. It says, a rectangle has a length that is equal to 10 inches. So here's the length. The perimeter is 28. What is the width? So here, it doesn't give us the width. It asks us to find the width. Okay? So let's write our equation. P equals 2L plus 2W. And let's start plugging in the information that we have. We have P, which is 28, equals 2 times the length, which we have, is equal to 10, plus 2W. So now we just distribute, multiply, and solve for W. So 2 times 10 is 20, so this is 28 equals 20 plus 2W, minus 20 minus 20. That gives me 8 equals, this cancels out, 2W. Divide by 2, divide by 2. This cancels out. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And that is W. Okay? So, my width is 4. And that is 4 inches. Awesome. Okay, let's look at one more example. So it says, a rectangle has a length that is equal to x minus 7 and a width of 8 inches. if the perimeter is 50, what is the value of x? So I'm going to write down my equation, and I'm going to start plugging in stuff, okay? So perimeter is 50. 50 equals 2 times the length. This tells me the length is x minus 7. So that's what I'm going to write in there. Plus 2 times the width. It tells me the width is 8. So that's what I'm going to write in there. Okay. And I'm looking for x. So that means I'm going to solve for x in this whole thing. So 2 times 8 equals 16. Let me rewrite this here. And let me distribute here. 2 times x, 2x. 2 times negative 7, negative 14. And I still have my plus 16. So here, negative 14 plus 16 gives me positive 2. So I'm going to rewrite this 2x, positive 2. Okay? Now, I'm going to minus 2, so I can get rid of that. 50 minus 2 is 48, equals 2x. I'm going to divide by 2, and I get x equals 24. And that is my answer. Because the question is asking me for x. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I hope you're getting it. All right, let's look at some examples with area. So area, here's our square again, and here is our rectangle. Remember, with the square, we still have all sides are equal, okay? So when we're looking at area, what we're looking for is to multiply one times the other, length times width, okay? So for a square, because they're the same, it would be side squared, or side times side, which is just side square. For a rectangle, it would be length times width. And that's it. That's all we got to remember there, okay? Super easy. You can add these two equations to your little page or your note card, whatever it is that you're using to remember equations. You can go ahead and add that to there so you can keep referencing to it. All right, so let's look at some questions. A square has a side that is equal to 8.3 centimeters in length. What is the area of the square in centimeters squared? So area is just side squared. So we're going to do area equals 8.3 squared. So we're going to do 8.3 times 8.3. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 8 is 24. Placeholder 0. 8 times 3 is 24. Carry the 2. 8 times 8 is 64. Plus 2 is 66. So that's 9, 8, 8, 6. There's 2 numbers behind the decimal point in my question. So there will be 2 numbers behind the decimal point in my answer. So the area is 68.89 centimeters squared. So the unit for area is whatever the unit is squared, because we're multiplying centimeters times centimeters or inches times inches. So that makes it squared. So when you see that notation, I don't want it to confuse you. That's just the notation that we use for area. Okay? All right, let's keep going. So next one says, the area of a square is 81 centimeters. What is the measure of the side? So we're going to refer back to our equation, area equals side squared. Here it gives us the area. So we're going to do 81 equals side squared. How do we solve for s? Well, here, because it's squared, we're going to take the square root. And when we take the square root of one side, we have to do it to the other side of the equal sign. Now, we take the square root, and this actually cancels out the square and leaves us with just s. What is the square root of 81? Well, a square root of something is what numbers multiply to equal that number that are the same. So for 81, it's 9, because 9 times 9 is 81. Okay? And that's it. The measure of the side is 9 centimeters. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So the area of a square is 100 centimeters. If the side is x plus 4, what is the measure of the side? All right, so here, the area is s squared. We have area is 100 equals s squared. And we take the square root to cancel out that squared. And the square root of 100 is 10. So side equals 10. Now it's telling us that the side is also x plus 4. But the question is asking us for the measure of the side. And the measure of the side, we already have it, is 10 centimeters. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is extra information to confuse you. You don't need it. You're done. You just are looking for the measure of the side, and it's 10 centimeters, and that's it. So just make sure that when you're doing these questions, and any question for that matter, that you're paying really close attention to whatever the question is asking you for. And you only use the information that's valuable or useful to you in finding that answer, okay? All right, awesome. Let's keep going. So now let's look at rectangles. Remember, area for rectangle is still just length times width. So a rectangle has a length of 12 centimeters and a width of 8 centimeters. Area equals 12 times 8. And 12 times 8 is 96. Remember, the unit is squared. Okay? All right. Next question. The area of a rectangle is 108 inches squared. What are the possible dimensions of the rectangle? All right, so this question is a little interesting. Now, here we saw that this, let's go back to question number 4. 96 is 96 because we multiply two factors of 96. 12 times 8 are factors of 96. When we're looking for area and we want to know the dimensions, we're looking for the possible factors. So the dimensions will be factors. That means they'll multiply to equal 108. So we're looking for numbers that multiply to equal 108. So that's what we're looking for. So 24 times 4, 4 times 4 is 16. Already this ends with a 6. That's not going to give me 108. 4 times 4 is 16, carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9. That's no good. Next one, 16 times 9. 9 times 6, 54, carry the 5. 9 times 1, 9, plus 5, 14. This is definitely not it. 13 times 8 is the next one. 8 times 3, 24, carry the 2. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 2 is 10. 104, close, but that's not it either. It must be 36 times 3. 3 times 6 is 18, carry the 1. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. And that is what we're looking for, 108. Okay? So when we get questions like this, what we're looking for is which one of these dimensions multiplies to give me 108. Okay, awesome. So let's keep going. Number 6 says, the area of a rectangle is 28 inches squared. If the length of the rectangle is 7 and the width is x minus 4, what is the value of x? So area equals length times width, right? We have the area, 28, equals the length, which is 7, times the width, which is x minus 4. So let's go ahead and distribute here. 28 equals 7 times x, 7x. 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. So now I'm going to plus 28, plus 28. 28 plus 28 gives me 6, carry the 1, 56. So 56 equals 7x. I'm going to divide by 7, and 56 divided by 7 is 8. So value of x, that's what the question is asking me for, x equals 8. Once again, I'm just plugging stuff into my equation. So as long as I know my equation and I'm comfortable using it, I will be okay. All right, let's look at number 7. So it says the area of a rectangle is 65 inches squared. If the length of the rectangle is 13 and the width is x minus 7, what is the value of x? This is a great time to pause and give this question a try. When you're ready, just come back, and I'll go ahead and explain it to you. Okay, so here we go. Area equals length times width. So I'm going to just plug everything in. Area is 65. Length is 13 times the width, which is x minus 7. So let me distribute stuff. 65 equals 13x. 13 minus 13 times 7. 7 times 3 is 21, carry the 2. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 2 is 9. So this is 91. So I'm going to do plus 91, plus 91. This cancels out. I'm left with the same 13x. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 9 is 15. So now I'm going to divide by 13. So 156 divided by 13. Okay, 13 goes into 15 one time. 13 times 1 is 13. 15 minus 3 is 2. Bring down the 6. 26 goes into 13 exactly 2 times. Or sorry, the other way around. 13 goes into 26 exactly 2 times. 13 times 2 is 26. I minus, I get 0. There's no other numbers to bring down. So x equals 12. Okay, awesome. I hope you got that. You have an awesome quiz to do after this lesson. So please go ahead and practice everything that you've learned in this video on that quiz. If you got something wrong, just review it. And if you have a question, remember to just leave a comment below and I'll be more than happy to help. All right, good luck. Okay, awesome job. I know you've already knocked out your area and perimeter questions. To keep going with geometry, let's take a look at some circles questions that you might come across on the ASVAB. Hi, in this lesson, we're going to go over circles. We're going to talk about circumference and also area of a circle, but I want to start off talking to you about just the different parts of a circle so we understand exactly what questions are talking about. I just like to visualize things, so I want to show you like a simple visual here. So in a circle, we have the center of the circle, okay? We have the radius. The radius of a circle starts at the center and goes all the way to the edge of the circle, okay? This is the radius. And then we also have the diameter. The diameter starts at one edge of a circle, goes all the way through the center to the other edge of the circle. Okay, so another thing we want to talk about is understanding what circumference is referring to. So circumference is the measure of the outside of the circle. So if we were to take a string and we were to put it on the outside, and then we were to measure that string, that would give us the circumference. It's the same idea with the, the perimeter, right, of the square and the rectangle, which is the measure of the outside. It's the same thing here. It's like the circumference is basically the perimeter of a circle, okay? And then the area includes everything inside. So all the space that is inside that circle is what we call the area of the circle. Okay, now that we have that information, there's one more thing that is important for you to know. Radius, okay, 2 times the radius is equal to the diameter. How do I know that? Because radius goes from the center to the edge and the center to the edge. So 2 radiuses put together, or radii put together, will give me the diameter, okay? Now that's important because sometimes a question will give you the diameter and ask you to find something for which you need the radius. When that happens, all we have to do is divide it by 2, okay? All right, so let's take a look at some concepts here that are important. First, we need to know what the equation is for circumference. So circumference is 2 times pi times r. So pi is basically, you can either use it as 3.14, you can multiply it that way, or you can just leave it as pi in the answer. How do I know which one to use? Look at the answer choices. If they do not have pi, that means you need to multiply by 3.14. Okay? All right, so circumference is 2 pi r. That's the most important thing here. And now let's take a look at what these questions look like. So question number 1. A convoy truck circles a region for patrolling. The region has a diameter of 12 miles. So the region, right, has a diameter. Remember the diameter. Starts at the edge, goes through the center, and gets to the other edge. The center of the circle is there. So the convoy truck is patrolling this region. It's going around in circles like this in this region. So the question is, what is the circumference? If we find the circumference, that tells us the distance that the convoy truck is traveling around the circle. Okay? So now that we've kind of understood what the question is talking about, let's understand what it's giving us. The diameter is 12 miles. The whole thing here, 12. Remember what I told you about diameter and radius? To get the radius, I divide this by 2. So the radius is 6. Okay? And we're looking for the circumference. So 2 pi r. R is 6. So this is 2 times 6. 12 pi. So when we have pi, we can just multiply everything around it and the pi stays the same. It's like if pi was x, but we know what pi equals. Okay? All right. So that was our first one. Let's keep going. A circle is drawn on a paper. It has a diameter of 19 inches. What is the radius of the circle? Okay, this one is even easier, right? It's asking us to find the radius based on the diameter. I know that radius is half the diameter, so I'm going to do 19 divided by 2. So 2 goes into 19 9 times. 2 times 9 is 18. 19 minus 18 is 1. I'm going to add a decimal, bring down a 0. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So the radius equals 9.5. So that one was easy. I don't think you'll find a question like this necessarily on the ASVAB, but these kinds of questions also help you to just practice finding radius and diameter and all that stuff like that, which are usually smaller steps to finding the more complicated answers. Okay, so let's keep going. It says, a circle is drawn on a paper. It has a radius of 23 centimeters. What is the diameter of the circle? Now here, remember, 2 times the radius equals diameter. So I'm going to do 23 times 2, and that's going to give me 46 centimeters. Okay? Once again, that's just a little practice to help you get used to the idea of switching between diameter and radius. But more likely, you'll have questions like this or more complicated. Okay? All right, so let's move on to the area. So the equation for area of a circle is area equals pi r squared. Okay? So in this one, the r is being squared. Easy. And then we multiply it by pi. So let's take a look at some examples. And I'm going to rewrite our equation up here so we can keep referring back to it. If the diameter of a circle is 9 inches, what is the area of the circle? Here, it's giving us diameter, and we need radius. So first we're going to divide this by 2. So 9 divided by 2. 4, add a decimal. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, so my radius is 4.5 inches. So now I'm going to plug it into my equation, pi r squared, which means I need to multiply 4.5 times 4.5, because this is simply 4.5 squared times pi. So now, squaring 4.5, 5 times 5 is 25, carry the 2. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 2 is 22, placeholder 0. 4 times 5 is 20, carry the 2. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 2 is 18. I'm going to add this up to 10, 3, 0, 25. There are 2 numbers behind the decimal point in my question, so there will be 2 numbers behind the decimal point in my answer. So let me erase this so I can have some space here. Okay, there we go. So now I get area equals 30.25, because that's 4.5 squared, pi. And that's it. There we go. Okay, I hope you got that. It should be pretty easy to follow. Remember, all you have to do... Oh, I'm sorry. I did this wrong. That's not 30.25. That should be 20.25. I thought that looked funny. Okay, there we go. I apologize for that. Okay, so I would encourage you to add these new equations to your note card where you're keeping, or your page, or whatever it is that you're using to keep your equations. So you have area, and then you have circumference, 2 pi r. So go ahead and add those to it. So now let's keep going. Let's look at the next example. It says if the radius of a circle is 12 centimeters, what is the area? Once again, area equals pi r squared. So 12 squared times pi, and 12 times 12 is 144 pi. Okay, super easy, right? All right, so in this one, it's starting us out with area, and then it asks us for diameter. So area equals pi r squared, which is here 36 pi. So it says the area of a circle is 36 pi. What is the diameter of the circle? All right, well, let me go ahead and just kind of get everything into place. So I'm going to divide by pi. This eliminates here and here. I'm left with r squared equals 36. I'm going to take the square root of r. That cancels out the square. And the square root of 36 is 6. So that gives me the radius. But what is the question asking me for? It's asking me for the diameter. And I know that diameter is 2 times r. So I have to do diameter times 2 times 6, and that gives me 12. Okay? All right, let's keep going. It says the area of a circle is 16 pi. What is the radius of the circle? Area is pi r squared, which is also equal to 16 pi. So I'm going to get rid of this. Actually, I'm going to erase it. I'm going to divide by pi. This cancels out. I'm left with r squared equals 16. I take the square root because that's the opposite of square. And I'm left with r equals, the square root of 16 is 4. So r equals 4. So these are kind of some questions to get you warmed up with, area and circumference and all that stuff. You're going to see some more challenging questions in the quiz, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing. You're still using the same process. And I'll offer you some more challenging questions later on also. Okay? All right, awesome. So go ahead and give that quiz a try that follows this video. And if you have any questions, just leave a comment below. All right, good luck.